going on, everyone? What is going on? Let's see if some people come into the chat here. Usually takes a minute for notifications and things to go out. What is today? Thursday? Yeah, Thursday already. This week flew by. Turn my air on a little bit as well. Push it down to 75. There we go. Cool it off a little bit. Hopefully everyone's having a great week so far. Yeah. Good afternoon. Hope your days are going well. So far, so good. I was doing my budget this morning and I was like, damn, I need to go back to work. So I got my drug test tomorrow. And then hopefully background check doesn't take too much longer and I'll be going back to work. Which, woo, I need the money, but I love chilling at home for sure. My days have been awesome. A good career? Yeah. It's a tech career, and on the positive side, it's Monday through Thursday, and I get every Friday off and the weekend. But they're 10-hour days, so that might be a little bit tiring. But just trying to be positive about it. I'll have 3 days off because I still want to stream. I won't be able to stream Monday through Thursday, obviously, but at least I'll still have like 3 days to stream because I want to keep growing this channel. I have fun doing this. But yeah, it's a good job. My family needs the money. They need me to go back to work, so it's what I got to do, I guess. I did see burn in the military. Really couldn't transfer that into civilian life. Yeah, that would be a hard pivot. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot you could do with that. Luckily for you, though, you said you were reserved, so you probably still had a civilian career. You're probably still working on something. And then also, you know, being in that reserves, you still had your tuition assistance. You could pretty much do whatever you want. GI Bill, all that stuff. Press conference, bro. It's the. Isn't it the one where they're on the plane though? I hate those plane press conferences. Those suck ass. I can pull it up. Let me see if they got it going on. I just hate how they don't always have the connections, and you know, like it'll cut out the few times I watched it. Oh, Department of Justice. Let me pull it up. DOJ. DOJ outlines Russia's disinformation. That's not it. Let me see what we got. Who has it, Paul? I'm not finding it. What's their channel name? Thanks for the follow there. I don't know what you need help with though. Let's see. DOJ press conference. See if it comes up. I just got banned from a self-professed communist channel after they asked me about age of consent laws. Who do communists believe about age of consent laws? Or what do they believe? I have no idea. I'm not a communist, so I have no idea. I never heard communists varying from a maturity age. I don't see the DOJ press conference, man. I said 18 and they banned me. Well, I mean, it's probably just those people, you know. Did you see the DOJ coming out claiming massive Russia collusion plan again? No, I think that's what Paul was talking about. He said they were doing a DOJ press conference, but I don't see it. It's not on YouTube, unless I'm just not finding it. So in 18, what? Then went deeper, saying minors with minors are fine. There should be a 2-year age limit for pedophilia. So an 18-year-old shouldn't get in trouble for sleeping with a 16-year-old, then was banned. Is that controversial? It's a weird line, man. Because technically at 18 you're considered an adult, even though you're not really an adult. Legally, you're not a minor anymore, so you probably shouldn't be sleeping with minors. But I would see your point if you were for that. They're probably both in high school. You know, they're not. You know, it's not that weird. Have a 2-year difference. One of the channels I watch is Breaking Points. Did a report on it this morning. So the 2-year age limit thing is what they banned me for. They didn't say, and I'm just confused. I mean, they could have accidentally banned you for all I know. I have no idea why they banned you. I'm on Lolo's Lounge trying to find out source. No, he said you are done. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't want to talk about it. That could have been it too, but he didn't say why. It could have just. There's a lot of weird stuff, you know, with streamers, and maybe he just didn't want to get into it. I think people will say controversial stuff just to try and get out there. What political spectrum are you on? Probably more conservative, I would say. I've considered myself liberal my whole life, or more libertarian. Yeah, I kind of align libertarian too on a lot of things. It's just not realistic to vote that way. Yeah, everyone these days says I'm right. Yeah, that's kind of where I've been put to. I wouldn't really consider myself a Republican, but I guess maybe now I am. I just don't know what views I have are right wing. Well, probably sane views. And sane views are usually considered right wing because they're not ultra progressive. Let me see if I can find this. I don't see anything like PBS News isn't really showing the DOJ. They do have a bunch of stuff coming up though. I'm going to try and watch this Sean Hannity interview. I don't know if they're going to flag me for it because it's Fox News and Sean Hannity probably wants to give everyone a copyright strike. But I'm going to try and bring it up and just see what it says. Because there are other sources that are posting it, and we'll just see. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Justice Department Live. I'll look at it. I'll see if it's coming up. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. I'll throw that in the old YouTubes. Justice Department Live. Oh, here we go. I think I found it. All right, so hit me with the ad. YouTube ads are getting longer too. Andy talks too much. No biggie. Just heads up. I'm gonna check it out. I'm just waiting on the ad. I didn't get to watch it yet. Donerd. I'm still waiting to watch it. I'm probably gonna watch it after this. I'm gonna see what they say. Why is the volume so low? All right, let me bring it up, Paul. Think I'm gonna pay for commercial free? Yeah. Oh man, I've thought about it so many times. I probably should too. All right, so here's the DOJ. Apparently, they're talking about Russian interference, so that kind of piques my interest and Paul's as well. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say.
Our Criminal Division Chief Alicia Washington and Assistant United States Attorneys Aaron Zelinsky and Bobby Golderis. Next, you'll hear from FBI Special Agent in Charge.
I live on the dang thing. Me too.
Thank you.
How's the volume? This guy seems low to me.
Good afternoon. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Barron, for hosting us today. We thank you and Assistant Attorney General Olson for the collaboration, expertise, and hard work that brought us here. I'm Bill Del Bagno. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Baltimore Field Office. Today is about partnerships,
Not too bad. Good.
commitment, and accountability. We are here, yes, to announce this indictment, but we're also equally here to highlight the international coordination and robust partnerships with our allies around the world. This type of cyber warfare will not be tolerated. The scope of Russia's crimes cannot be ignored.
So we saw this yesterday where they came out and they announced in the White House press briefing that there was a lot of Russian interference. They didn't get to specifics besides maybe kind of hinting at the video we watched yesterday where the lady was saying that Kamala Harris hit her when she was younger and made her with her car and made her paralyzed. That was the only thing that was even kind of hinted at. I wish they would give specific details on what actually is going on, what accounts are tied to this. I saw some things on X where they were trying to say like Tim Pool and all these like Republicans were tied to a certain company that was paying them, that was through Russia to, state certain things. I don't know if that was true or not. I'm hoping they actually kind of like give us what exactly are they talking about? What kind of misinformation is out there? Give us specifics. They're saying Tim Pool and Dave Rubin are paid by the Russia. Yeah, exactly. That's what I saw on X. One other person also, I saw it was like pretty your typical Republicans were being paid. But I just saw that briefly on X, so I didn't know how true it was. That one is a big deal. Exactly, that is a big deal. So I want to give us specifics. Like, are they talking about these streamers or not?
Ukraine, the United States, and 26 NATO countries were all targeted by this group of Russian military. We are aligned in our unified response, and we will collectively defend against Russia's aggressive and illegal actions. The FBI and our partners call this investigation Operation Toy Soldier. Through strokes on a keyboard, these criminals crossed over borders into countries.
Whoa. I would never consider Tim Pool to be a Republican. That's where I started to get very confused. If he's a Republican, then what am I? He's super left. To be honest, I don't watch his show. I just kind of assumed he was Republican. Maybe he is left. Maybe some clips. I just kind of thought maybe he was more right, kind of along that like Joe Rogan right angle, those kind of guys. Maybe libertarian. I wouldn't call those guys typical Republicans. They are far right, in my opinion. See, that's where I don't watch them, so I don't actually know where they're aligned. I just assumed.
Hunting to find weaknesses and seeking to harm. The Whispergate malware attack in January of 2022 could be considered the first shot of the war. The cyber criminals sent a message with their malware, telling Ukrainians to, quote, be afraid and expect the worst. A month later, Russia physically invaded the country. These 6 criminals aim to cripple Ukraine's government and critical infrastructure.
Joe Rogan is also left. Have him say why, because I listen to both of them and they're very liberal. Yeah, they're liberal. So kind of what we were talking about earlier, how people who were formerly on the left are now on the right. That they're considered right now because of the shift in the political spectrum. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like typically they would be considered Democrats by their views, but they're not anymore, I guess. And how many stances do you need from one side or the other to be considered one? But why though? Why? I don't know. But I did see there is some information. I'm going to bring this up just so I can kind of get what they're talking about, because I haven't really watched the news this morning just to see what's going on. So this is AP News, and it says right-wing influencers were duped to work for covert Russian influence operation. So it says they have millions of followers online. They have been major players in the right-wing political discourse since Donald Trump was president, and they worked unknowingly for a company that was a front for a Russian influence operation, U.S. prosecutors say. An indictment filed Wednesday alleges a media company linked to 6 conservative influencers, including well-known personalities such as Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, was secretly funded by Russian state media employees to churn out English language videos that were often consistent with Kremlin interest in amplifying the U.S. domestic division in order to weaken U.S. opposition to Russian interests, like its war in Ukraine. So that's where you can kind of see where I was getting that. The news is considering these guys right wing. You can kind of call them whatever you want, but the meat of the matter is we had known Russian influence, and that's what the DOJ should be giving us the details on here.
By targeting their finances agriculture, emergency services, healthcare, and schools. These same criminals are accused of repeatedly targeting U.S. computer networks, including a government agency here in Maryland, scanning it more than 60 times for vulnerabilities. They committed fraud in the U.S. by illegally accessing bank accounts and using U.S. company to carry out their criminal acts. The FBI, along with our law enforcement partners and allies, will relentlessly hunt down and counter these threats. We have worked closely to thwart additional targeting by this group. The 6 Russians in this indictment are not advanced cyber masterminds, but are adept at exploiting vulnerabilities that countries and companies can guard against with simple steps. In conjunction with this indictment, the FBI and more than a dozen government partners and countries are issuing a joint cybersecurity advisory. It details exactly how these malicious cyber criminals carried out this attack and what can be done to prevent it. This indictment is the result of years of collaborating with our partners in dozens of different countries.
Stone says, so what, because they're anti-war? So I just looked through that article to try to see if there was something else that they said. The only reference that they have is the statement that because they were wanting to end the war, or being more anti-Ukraine, rather, not even really being anti-war. That's right-wing now. I mean, that's what I was hoping that the guy would be saying. What exactly was misinformation that was spilled into the public? This article didn't say anything besides the Ukraine stuff. That's really the only political thing that I see. So they really have to give us some specifics. At least Garland is doing something about something. I never heard them be anti-Ukraine. That's just from this article here. That's the message that this company was trying to put out there, that they should be more anti-Ukraine. It just says, supporting Kremlin's interests, but it doesn't really say anything of what they were doing. Maybe because they're still in the investigation process, they don't want to actually give more details. Yeah, the only thing it says, with Kremlin's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic division in order to weaken U.S. opposition to Russian interests like the war in Ukraine. So we have to think what narrative is pro Kremlin that they might have been saying. These guys, again, I don't watch them, so I don't know what they're saying. I honestly thought they were right wing. So that tells you how much I know about these guys.
And law enforcement in Europe. We thank each of them for their diligence and dedication that led to today. As you've heard, there's a combined $60 million reward for information on these criminals' locations and their cyber crimes. To the Russian criminals, the world is watching. You do not carry out misdeeds in the dark. We are united in identifying, prosecuting, and protecting against future crimes. Thank you. And I'll now open it up for questions. And if you have questions that are directed to any one of us, please let us know.
If you could just state your...
After the last 8 years, can we trust anything that from the DOJ or what any government agency says? I would believe that Russia probably does interfere with our elections. I don't think that's far-fetched to say that. They're very anti-Putin, so I don't know. Yeah, it's true. They're gonna be anti-Putin. Paul says, I watch how Sparks cover their videos, debunk and crack jokes on them. Yeah. See, I'm not even involved in that. I honestly don't watch them, so I don't know. I doubt they'd talk so much trash about him if they were in favor of him. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. The reporters are actually going to ask him questions, so hopefully they can give us some more finer details here of actually what was going on.
Name and your outlet before you ask the question. That'd be great. Jessica with Fox 45. I have 3 questions. The first one, you just said $60 million. Is it $10 million reward for each of them?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that they are in the country or out of the country? Do you know where they could be?
they're not to believe to be in the country. There are steps that are going to be taken, though, in order to bring this indictment to fruition. And we will partner with Interpol in order to serve red notices and ensure that if they are in a location that can be affected, that we'll take those on.
Do you have an idea which country they are in?
These are Russian military, and I'll leave it, at that. But to say that
The debates are coming the 10th, man. That's next week, Stone. So in a debate format, that's what we need. We need to see how she acts. She's going to get asked questions. It's going to be hopefully, it should be live. That's what we're hoping. It's not going to be some fucked up CNN coverage or something. I just want to see her answer questions live one time before deciding who I'm voting for. Exactly. So this debate, man, I'm going to live stream it. It's in 5 days. So we'll actually get to see how Kamala reacts. We can kind of get a better idea, especially as Trump's going to be firing probably his typical insults at her. Debate will be fire. Yeah. And this is actually a good find, Paul. I didn't see this morning. So this is kind of interesting to see what they're going to do with these guys. So these streamers or whatever, I'm assuming they're streamers, Tim Pool and all that. I don't know if they just do long form videos, whatever. The people that are on YouTube, are they saying that they are associated with the businesses that were part of Russia and they knew about it, and now they're doing an investigation to see if there was some funky stuff going on? Are they trying to say that they need to be prosecuted, or are they saying they didn't know about it? This was just a company that came along and told them to fit this narrative, which that should kill their audience right there. If they're showing hard facts that they were paid to give any narrative, you think that would kill their audience, right? Who wants to watch somebody that's paid? I mean, because I don't watch Tim Pool, but isn't he the guy that's like, oh, I'm against the mainstream media, and then this comes out and he's being paid to give a narrative? Isn't that kind of fucked up, right? You're a good dude. Thanks, man. Better than all these commie bastards on here. Yeah, exactly. But isn't that true? Like, isn't Tim Pool the anti kind of government guy and all that? And this dude is being paid to give a narrative. What's the good word? Oh, we watching the Department of Justice get questioned by journalists.
Wherever they are, the important thing is that we are working with all our partners, our NATO partners, to protect against this type of action, but also to have the impact that we want to have with this indictment.
And then my very last question, can you say which U.S. companies or agencies had their computer systems implicated in this?
No, we wouldn't cover any victims.
It was the Civil War shit. I mean, I know countries are going to make us divisive, but what exactly was he saying about the Civil War?
In this announcement, it's important
No,
that
I didn't
we,
watch it.
maintain their privacy in that.
You said that, Phil Yakubowski from WBAL Radio. You said that the USA government agency located everyone. They tried to get through 63 times. Were they able to get any information? Or was it stopped? Was that part of how you sort of figured out who these folks were?
So not necessarily getting into the investigative side, but scanning for vulnerabilities to try to identify ways to get into those companies or agencies is a manner in which overseas adversaries attempt to compromise the U.S. And what we do is we partner very closely with all our partner agencies and with all our partner countries in order to protect against those type of vulnerabilities. And in the Joint Cybersecurity Advisory, those steps are laid out as to how to best handle those type of vulnerabilities, but also the potential for those type of scannings as well.
And you said that Ukrainians had their personal information taken or stolen. Do you have any reason to believe that Americans might be affected by this, the average citizen?
I don't have reason to believe that. As you mentioned, these this malware attack, Whispergate attack, on the Ukrainians, while was meant to pose as a ransomware that was meant to make them believe that they could recover their data, was in fact just destroying the computers. It was taking the data and erasing it, making those computers inoperable. They did extract that information from the Ukrainians.
You can pull up the indictment. Yeah, I'll try to see if I can Google it. And always had a shit-eating grin on his face when he talked about it. Of course he did. He was getting paid, man. Can you imagine the amount of money that was being shilled out to him just to state something? And now he might find his ass in jail.
And that presents vulnerabilities. And that's why this is important for all of us to include, from Maryland's to Americans across the U.S., to our NATO allies, to understand that these vulnerabilities need to be protected, and that the potential of your personal information is the job of the FBI and our.
Of what I heard, it was up to $100K per video. Jesus. And so what happens now? Does the government come in and seize those assets?
Our partners to help protect that.
Jeff Hager with WMAR-TV. If these weren't really cyber masterminds, even if you scooped up all 6 and paid the reward, what's to keep Russia from just pushing another 6 people into their place and filling that void? What keeps Russia from doing this?
Well, part of the indictment is also to impose risk and consequences to the actions that are being taken. And really, if there's a message that could also be delivered, it's to those that would potentially.
All right, here we go, Paul. I found it. So here's the indictment. I'm going to look at it just a little bit of, I need more details because I don't know what's going on. So introduction, it says RT, formerly known as Russia Today, is a state-controlled media outlet funded and directed by the government of Russia. After Russia invaded Ukraine on February 2022, RT was sanctioned, dropped by distributors, and ultimately forced to cease formal operations in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and European Union. In response, RT created, in the words of its editor-in-chief, an entire empire of covert projects designed to shape public opinion in Western audiences. One of RT's covert projects, as described herein, is its funding and direction of a Tennessee-based online content creation company. Okay. All right, so that sets us up for what actually is going on here, this RT company. Okay, over at least the past year, RT and its employees, including whatever that Russian name is, Katya and Lena, the defendants, have deployed nearly 10 million laundered through a network of foreign shell entities to covertly fund the direct U.S. company. So the company publishes English language videos on multiple social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube, using multiple fake personas, Afianzia, or whatever that company's called in Russian, edited, posted, and directed the posting by U.S. Company One of hundreds of videos. Okay, let's get to the meat of what actually is going on, though. Yeah, so basically it's saying the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying the U.S. domestic division in order to weaken U.S. opposition to the core government of Russia interest, which is what we read in most of the new news articles. But specifically, what are we looking at here? So they've done 2,000 videos that have garnered more than 6 million views on YouTube alone. And never disclosed to its viewers that it was funded and directed by RT. Of course not. They're trying to have propaganda. Why would they do that? Okay, so, and this is where we're talking here. So it's saying this company also worked together to deceive 2 U.S. online commentators. That's what they're calling them, streamers or whatever. But it says, who respectively have over 2.4 million and 1.3 million YouTube subscribers. Founder 1 and Founder 2 contracted with Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 to produce videos using Commentators 1 and Commentators 2 own names and leveraging their existing audience for license and publication by company. Okay, but what did they say? By falsely portraying to Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 that U.S. Company 1 was sponsored by a private investor named Edward Gregorian, whatever that is. Gregorian. Okay, but specifically, yeah, we get it. They were paid. I get that. What exactly was the narrative that they're throwing out there? Let me see what you... Oh. They said deceive. If that's true, they should be held accountable. But if these guys didn't know what they were doing, can we hold them accountable? Let's say Tim Pool didn't know this was a Russian media company. He's just a guy who somebody's throwing money at him. Is it really his fault? I agree, Stoner. If they didn't know, they aren't too bright. Sure, we could say they're stupid and that they didn't know it. But what if they legitimately didn't? What if somebody comes at you and they're telling you, what did Paul say? It was like 100K a video. And you're like, holy shit, all I got to do is say this thing and I'm going to make enough money to buy a house. I'm going to be rich. Maybe they weren't thinking this is Russian media news, and trying to deceive the American public. And even if they were, so what? I don't know if I would say they're minor streamers because they have millions of viewers, but still, isn't that freedom of speech kind of thing as well? Shit, that is too good to be true. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's say then that they actually knew what they were doing and they were being paid to say things on their platform. Isn't that still free speech? If they know that's basically treason, though. Okay, yeah, we could argue that. That could be treason in a way. Can you even hold a civilian accountable for treason, though? A civilian who's just a streamer, they don't have any form of... They're not in the government, Can you hold them accountable for treason? I don't know. When I was in the military, hell yeah, they would hold me accountable. But if you're just a civilian, you're just some dude who has a YouTube channel, is that treason? Edward Snowden's different. He had a security clearance. That's where they hold you accountable to treason. And he worked for the government. Yeah, exactly. He worked directly for the NSA. So I can tell you work for the NSA, you are signing NDAs and all of these agreements where they throw your ass in jail if you violate your security clearance. But a civilian? I don't know if they can. But would you be responsible if you found out the CEO of the company you work for is a spy? I don't think so. If you didn't know that they were a spy, how are they going to hold you accountable? Have there ever been any treason cases ushered against the civilian? I don't know. A civilian who's not in the government and doesn't hold a security clearance. I could see them coming in and seizing all the assets as, I don't know, collateral to the case. I could see them maybe doing that. But could they actually do something to Tim Pool? Well, they got Trump for the Stormy Daniels thing, and even that, people question it. And with that case, there was something legitimate to it. It was some kind of accounting error, which is against the law, even though people don't usually prosecute people for that. But they did hold them accountable for something. And he had no idea where the money was coming from. Do you have to know where money's coming from? Because let's say like a business reaches out to me and they want to give me money. Am I going to have to research where they made their money? That seems almost impossible. It's just two businesses talking to each other. When you go to Walmart and you buy something, you're not asking where the revenue comes from. And if Walmart was laundering money, they wouldn't hold you accountable for purchasing something there. Give me a second. I'm going to go to the restroom. Okay. Was part of it. So basically, Trump has a ton of money, told Michael Cohen to take care of it, and Michael Cohen apparently took the money from his campaign financing instead of his previous assets. I think I missed part of that conversation. Well, let me see this here. Let's see what's going on. They're telling me, okay, now my stream's fine. They were telling me they weren't getting enough data there, but I don't know what was happening. What would the scenario be if we found out that MSNBC was owned by a Russian company? Well, that would be critical. What would they do? They probably would. I'm sure they would shut the company down. I don't believe our government is going to let a Russian narrative just keep going out there, you know. They're not going to allow them to keep doing that. MSNBC is more likely to be owned by China. Yep, maybe. So let me look more into this. I want to see specifically like what they did. It's talking about seizing operations, background on certain individuals and entities. Background on foreign agents. No. RT's covert operations through U.S. company. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's saying Founder 1 began working with an individual operating under the fictitious name of Edward, and 3 purported representatives of Edward. Persona 2, Persona 3 to launch a new YouTube channel initially under the name Viewpoint Productions. I've never heard of them. I don't know, it kind of sounds familiar actually, to be honest. But I don't know them enough. On or about January 10th, Persona 2 told Founder 1 that Founder 1's first task was to find a personality that could serve as the face of the channel, and that for the right candidate, we're willing to pay around 1 to 2 million per year. Persona 2 sent Founder 1 a proposed contract for Founder 1's influencer talent scouting services. Man, this shit's getting sketchy. All right, so they're going to pay this influencer who's not named under this channel. So I believe all of this. I'm with them. I understand that they think this company is from Russia and that they were setting out to put some misinformation out there, but what was the misinformation? That's what I want to know. I don't need all the fine details on believing what happened. I just want to know what actually was said. So here is the flyer for what they were going to pay. I'm all for stopping foreign election interference. Are they looking into the extreme left streamers as well? It seems to always be the right. Yeah, man, I'm with you. You don't see that. Who do you consider extreme left? That's a good question. I guess like who's that one dude like Hazan? I don't watch these left streamers, but they're out there. I think that dude probably for sure. I think his name's like something with an H. Do you believe in conspiracies? I mean, I'm sure there's some truth to some of these. Extreme left are communists and people that want to legalize pedophilia and stuff like that. Yeah, Hassanabi, that guy. I would say he's probably extreme left. He's enraging. I've never actually watched a video with him, so let me just say that when I say he's probably extreme left. I don't know because I don't watch his channel, but from what I've heard, he is extreme left. He also said something stupid like streaming was the hardest job ever. I thought that was just dumb. There's nobody I hate more in life than campaign socialist. Is he a socialist? I've been in poverty my whole life. I would assume he probably has some socialist policies that he's back in there. What is this? Okay. I think it may be because that's usually a term used by liberals, but we're trying to create a conservative network. See, this is what I was getting at. They were targeting conservatives. That's why I said these guys were on the right. They're looking for people that will actually listen to like a Republican viewpoint. Let me see this. I'm almost 20 pages into this and it still hasn't said exactly what they did. Begin operations. Okay, here we go. In the weeks that followed, Founder 1 subdivided the US company 1 Discord server into various Discord channels, including channels for individual contributors and their teams to discuss production-related matters, a channel to discuss pitches and story concept, and channels for production team to post videos for publication. Okay, so this is where they're kind of getting their ideas in this Discord channel of what they're actually going to throw out there. So it looks like they did it all through Discord. Go figure. Editorial roles. Okay. All right. Blah, 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 blah. They want me to post this referencing the video that they had posted, but it just feels like overt shilling. So this person questioned what they were doing. Thinks we should put it out there. Okay. As another example, on or about March 22, the Helena company shared in the producer Discord channel a video of the March 22 terrorist attack on a music venue in Moscow, which killed approximately 145 people and injured hundreds more. Okay, that makes sense. So they're throwing out a like sympathy angle for Russia. Producer one privately messaged founder one writing, I don't know if you saw it, but they want me to post some footage from an attack in Moscow today. There's a watermark in the middle of the page that's blurred, which looks bad, and it's also pretty graphic. You can see people getting shot, albeit from far away. Founder one did not push back on the content of the clip, but replied in their producer's Discord channel, I'm not sure it's a good idea to blur out someone's watermark. It's fine, no worries. It falls under fair use. Producer 1 and Producer 2 found a clip of the attack without a watermark and posted the clip to X, satisfying the request. The next day, on or about March 23, the company privately messaged founder 1 on Discord asking that one of our creators record something about the Moscow terror attack. Okay, now we're actually into what they did here. Despite public reporting that the foreign terrorist organization ISIS had claimed responsibility for the attack, the company requested that U.S. Company 1 blame Ukraine and the United States, writing, I think we can focus on the Ukraine-U.S. angle. The mainstream media spread fake news that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS itself never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they were heading to the border with Ukraine, which makes it even more suspicious why they would want to go to Ukraine to hide. Okay, now this is what we're talking about here. Founder 1 responded that Founder 1 would ask Commentator 3, and the next day confirmed that Commentator 3 said he's happy to cover it. Okay, that makes sense. We need the cliff notes. That's the cliff notes in there, yeah. So basically, this is what we're looking at this here. So mainstream media was saying this was an ISIS attack, while they were being paid to say Moscow was being attacked by Ukraine, because obviously we didn't want attacks actually happening in Russia. That was never what we actually agreed upon. That's the issue they're even having now, as Ukraine is trying to get these long-range missiles from the U.S. That's the meat of what is going on right now. So this makes sense how they're trying to spin that narrative. Anyone else find it sketchy that they never use names on these? If these charges are that bad, shouldn't they be using names instead of producer? Yeah, man, it just confuses people. Especially if it's already out there in the open. We already know who is involved in this, but I guess specific details, I don't know. I'm sure there are ongoing investigations. Yes. But this makes more sense. So, and it's basically saying that some of these people in here thought what they were posting was shady, but they still wanted the money, so they did it. So now that we know that, do we hold them accountable? It's almost like they knew they were doing potentially something wrong, but they still posted it. Yeah, the U.S. company one received its 30 inbound wire transfers from 7 foreign entities, none of which were U.S. companies. And they didn't think some of this was kind of shady? Like, come on. They're going to play dumb is my guess. So now grifting is illegal. How many grifters are there? Exactly. So even then, even in, like, they're still just citizens, right? And they still have free speech. Isn't it the DOJ's job to come in and shut them down and say, you know, this is actually what's occurring. You need to stop doing this, and they'll agree to that. But up until that point, isn't it still free speech? As wrong as it may be, can they hold them accountable? This is just the allegations. Forfeiture allegations. That's pretty much it. So, okay, at least now we have a better idea of what was going on. Makes a lot more sense now.
Those individuals. This isn't a place where they should seek to use their skills. It's not a place that we want them to be employed, and they should consider elsewhere, because this indictment, while it goes to Interpol, as I mentioned, if nothing else, landlocks these individuals into Russia, where they may be, or has them looking over their shoulders at any given time. So perhaps those that are considering this as a future employment or ways to have their cyber skill set, perhaps it discourages them from doing that. Yes.
That's right. If I may, to answer your question in a little bit, totally agree with the special agent in charge and as to why we bring this case and why we bring cases like this. First and foremost, it is to hold these individuals accountable. As Bill said, they are marked people now. We know who they are. There's a reward on their head, and we're going to pursue them relentlessly. So that's reason one. Reason two is to expose the techniques they've used, because when we put these techniques and tools that they've used into our indictment and we say we're going to back this up with evidence in a courtroom, that shows not only the Russians, but it shows our private sector partners on how to protect themselves. And then finally, the message is clear to the GRU and to the Russians. We are on to you. We penetrated your systems. The FBI, the Department of Justice, will be relentless in pursuing you. And so you better pay attention to the fact that we have gotten to you and we are in your system. So that sends a very strong deterrent message, and we've seen that message take hold in other cases like this. So that's why we bring these cases.
I have a question.
They didn't really say what they were talking about here, so I'm just going to pull that up here because it's getting kind of confusing. Basically, they're saying that ransomware attack compromises microchip technology employee data. Just to give you the overview of what they're actually talking about, it says, Bleeping Computer reports that U.S. semiconductor manufacturer Microchip Technology has disclosed the exfiltration of some employees' data in a ransomware attack last month claimed by the Play ransomware operation, as it confirmed the recovery of critical IT systems disrupted by the intrusion. So there's some kind of manufacturing issue going on. Go figure, that is giving ransomware attacks into the systems. And obviously in a ransomware attack, people don't usually get their computer back. They send their Bitcoin in and their computer still gets wiped because people are assholes.
Kate Amara from WBAL TV from the Can't Hurt to Ask file.
What is this? No opinion about a Chinese company owning U.S. soil, but Russia propaganda is where we draw the line. Or Chinese buying farmlands around military bases or anything about that. They want the info and tools to use on other countries.
We weren't going to talk specifically about victims, but the sheer number of federal agencies in our state begs the question: should people be worried that their, Social Security information, health information? We have Walter Reed, we have NIH, we have the FDA.
Yes.
We have the NSA.
You should be worried.
People be worried that their private information was part of this? And my second question: the private company that unknowingly had their servers used, did they report it to the feds, or did you tell that company that they were being used? And what's the lesson there for every other company out there?
I'm going to turn it over to the U.S. Attorney on the specifics of the case. I will just say, before I do so, that
That dude's bailing.
Every federal agency, every private sector entity, is at some risk in this current environment where, cybersecurity just has to be a paramount concern. And that's why we work so hard to be good partners to the private sector in understanding the threats they face, sharing threat information with them. And again, when we have a case like this, bringing the case to bring the perpetrators to justice.
He said, gotta go, guys.
Sure, just to follow up, and we can't get into investigative techniques. I can stay within the four corners of the indictment and tell you that there were dozens of scans for vulnerabilities through this Maryland-based U.S. government agency and others throughout the world. It's something that our partners, our private sector partners, the public in general should know. Whether or not personally identifiable information was exposed, that's not a part of this indictment, but certainly as a general matter, the message here is prevention and intervention. And the message by this announcement is that there are many cyber criminals out there, some sponsored by states, some state and country sponsored cyber criminals who are out to expose and get at either a government or companies' information or our own individual information. And so that we should all be very vigilant in taking the necessary steps, recommended steps, best practices, so to speak, to protect our information.
And quickly, are you able to say which came first? Did the private company alert you, or did you alert them that they were being scanned?
Right, again, that's kind of outside the indictment and part of our investigation, but again, part of this announcement is that is one way that we as law enforcement are able to connect the dots, so to speak, in an investigation. When we have those public-private sector partnerships, we need businesses out there, companies out there to report when things happen. We need them to be vigilant about their cybersecurity infrastructure and collaborate with us and with one another. And that way we can gather evidence and bring in indictments such as this.
So when he's talking about this indictment, it basically comes from this here. This is CBS News. It says, a new lawsuit is claiming hackers have gained access to the personal information of billions of individuals, including their social security numbers, current and past addresses, and the names of siblings and parents. Personal data that could allow fraudsters to infiltrate financial accounts to take out loans in their names. The allegations arose in a lawsuit filed earlier this month by Christopher Hoffman, a California resident who claimed his identity theft protection service alerted him that his personal information has been leaked to the dark web by nationalpublicdata.com breach. The lawsuit was earlier reported by Bloomberg Law. So there was some kind of breach going on. It says the breach allegedly occurred around April with a hacker group called US DoD Exfiltration, the unencrypted personal information of exfiltrating the unencrypted personal information of billions of individuals from a company called National Public Data, a background check company. According to the lawsuit, earlier this month, a hacker leaked a version of the stolen MPD data for free on a hacking forum. That's great. Considering I just applied to get a job and had to do a background check from a third party, it's really great to know that people are hacking those platforms and taking everybody's data. I am super excited about that. Like I said yesterday, all this could be avoided if every U.S. citizen could just watch the DoD cybersecurity CBT. Yeah. And if they pick to choose to run after the person, because that's always the correct answer. But thanks to this economy, the hackers would have to pay down my debt first to get a loan. Exactly. Sucks to suck, hackers. You can't do shit.
Thanks, everybody. If you didn't get to ask a question, you can just direct them to me.
Thanks, everyone.
Is that it for them? That's all the news they got? They're not going to take more questions? Really? That was good, though. That was actually interesting. That was Paul. That was all Paul. Bringing up that. All right, what else we got? I want to try and watch this Sean Hannity video. They're probably going to try and block it because they're a bunch of jerks, but let's see. Let's see what they got. All right, so here is Trump being interviewed by Sean Hannity. This is their town hall that they did yesterday. Someone said there was some exciting stuff that happens in this, so definitely want to hear what he has to say.
Think about this. In just 13 days, early voting will officially get underway across the Keystone State. In a few days, just mail-in ballots will go out in other states. And we are only 61 days from what I believe is an inflection point for the country. That's less than 2 months away. And that's the 2024 election. The race, according to polls, is close in 7 states. The latest Trafalgar poll.
Let me look at this real quick. So yeah, they're actually showing in PA that Trump is in the lead now. Okay, that's interesting. I always say if someone steals my identity, they will be wanting to give it back. Exactly. Them hackers wasted their time.
Poll has Donald Trump up by 2 in this state of Pennsylvania. This state could very well decide the entire race nationwide. The Real Clear Politics average shows statistically it is close, a tie in these states. Meanwhile, left-leaning statistician Nate Silver is giving President Trump a 58% chance of winning the Electoral College. But that, too, remains close. Trump is now...
All right, so they're saying Trump is leading in the polls. I want to pull up the national polls just to show you real quick. What we got? Latest polls. So this is Project 538. Usually they're a pretty good source. What are they showing? As of the 5th, which is today, they're showing Harris in the lead. Let me see what most of these polls are saying. So this is like an aggregate of all of the polls that they're looking at. And they're really close. Trump, and Harris are tied here. Let's see. Yeah, Harris, Trump. Okay, we got some Trump leading. So yeah, the polls have definitely changed. I don't know if that's because of her interview, that maybe she went down in the polls. Because a lot of people were ragging on her about that interview. It was like 45 minutes long, and they only released like 18 minutes of it. Definitely edited, definitely scripted, for sure. Oh my God, that was a terrible interview. So I don't know if that's what's changing it. Maybe people aren't trusting her as much. Some people are looking at this other thing. Let me pull it up real quick.
Trending up in Nate Silver's model and multiple polls after Kamala's long-lived honeymoon phase now finally appears to be over. Her one and only interview was a whopping 16 minutes and 30 seconds of talk time.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That interview, that was not good. And they pretty much ragged on Tim Walz in the interview too. He was asked questions and he gave no answers. It was a bad look for him especially. But here's this other thing here. People have been watching this Poly Market poll. Basically, the idea is that you're putting money into the poll, so people think that's more legit because they're putting their money where their mouth is. Now, You could say that, but there's also another side to it where you have to think that Trump, as of recently, is now more pro Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. So typically, if you're into crypto and you're using platforms like this Poly Market to put money into fun polls, try to win money depending on who actually wins the election. If you are pro crypto and you have a candidate who is also pro crypto on the other side, which is your Democrats, are typically showing you that they're not pro crypto, they don't like crypto, they hate crypto, then they're probably not going to be siding with Poly Market, right? So obviously, if you're pro crypto and you're going to be doing this kind of thing where you're putting money into Poly Market, yeah, it's probably going to lean Republican. So I look at this and I question the data. People love this, though. It's a cool idea that you get a bet on who's going to win. That's super fun. But it's just, typically, Republicans are for crypto, so probably going to be more Republicans on the platform. So I don't think this data is legit. And it shows Trump has a huge lead, but I'll bring it up because some people like it. That's why I go back to the national polls. I think national polls are probably more legit. Maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if any of these polls are legit, to be honest. It's all just made up numbers, right?
Done a lot of interviews with Donald Trump. I promise you, not one has gone under an hour. She has yet to hold a single formal press conference in 45 days after her coronation.
Yeah.
She won't even take unscripted questions from voters at a town hall. Later on,
and you see her headphones there? She always walks past the reporters with headphones in. She tries to pretend that she's having a conversation, that she can't answer the questions. They're always screaming at her to answer some questions. She never follows up to any of those. And when she does, it's usually pretty bad. It's usually not a very good look.
We will be taking questions from this audience. She apparently pretended to be on a phone call to avoid reporters on the tarmac. That was yesterday. The truth is she doesn't have a good answer for her radical beliefs or sudden flipping and flopping and flailing or her horrible record in the Biden-Harris administration. She keeps saying, well, I'm going to deal with inflation on day one. I'm going to deal with the border on day one. Day one was January 20th, 2021. So Kamala and her far left emotional support, Governor Tim Walz, are now hiding in plain sight behind their teleprompter, short scripted events. Democrats are hoping that Kamala can win on vibes, phony proclamations of joy, and even phonier proclamations of freedom. But in reality, the vibes haven't been the same since Donald Trump left office. Let's look at the facts.
People are loving Hannity. Is he a fan favorite of Republicans? I don't honestly know a lot about him because I don't watch Fox News.
The former president, Americans had more money, less debt. Housing was more affordable. Food, clothing, insurance, gas, everything was more affordable. Interest rates were at record lows. The world was a more peaceful place. The border of our country was secure. Americans were more safe and secure in their towns and cities. So what happened to this country?
The VP of one of the most powerful countries in the world, and she couldn't afford wireless headphones. I didn't even catch that. That's funny, though. Hannity is probably the top dog of Fox after O'Reilly left. Yeah, I know he's a big name. I just haven't watched him. I hate that mofo. He does have a very punchable face. I'll give him that. Tucker was top dog too, but he left too. Yeah, I know Tucker because I've listened to his own individual podcast now that he left. I didn't see him when he was on Fox News, but he went into the podcast space. Then I've listened to a few, and he seems legit to me. I actually like him. He gets a lot of shit, but Tucker seemed okay. He does go out to the conspiracy theory lane a little bit, but it's fun. It's fun to venture out there. But I'm sure it's a security factor. I'm not a fan of Tucker. Yeah, I could see why people wouldn't like him because he does go out there.
In the last 4 years under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I asked this audience in Harrisburg, are you better off than you were 4 years ago today? Now, here to answer that question and many more. Let's give a warm Harrisburg, Pennsylvania welcome to the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
All right, here he comes. Tucker pulled off an interview with Putin. That takes balls. And that's why I liked him too, because I watched the interview with Putin. He's interviewing all of these people that are out there, but people don't like that kind of shit. When you're interviewing our enemies and spreading that information around, for whatever reason, people do not like that because maybe misinformation catches on, right?
Health First
Oh,
Health Plans.
what the
Covering
fuck?
Florida for generations.
Got me with the ad. YouTube's been really pumping these ads out lately. I don't know what is going on. All right, here we go. We're back. This one's softball. I mean, I'm sure it is. It's Fox. Of course it's going to be, right? It makes sense that he would do this interview with Fox the same week that Kamala is doing an interview with CNN. They're both probably going to be softball interviews.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Sean.
How are you, sir? Great to see you. Grab a seat.
Okay.
Get comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, David.
All right.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice crowd.
I would say
It's a big crowd.
You know, I mentioned we had this terrible shooting in Georgia.
Right.
Our prayers are with our friends in Georgia. And I've been doing town halls and interviews in public with you for all these years since you got into the political arena. And I told this audience, never before have restrictions been so tight, obviously after the assassination attempt as well. And
What, I thought candidates had to bring their VPs with them? I thought that was the new rule. That's cold, man. Emotional support, Tim Walz.
Director Reyes said the threat level has never been this bad. He said it 5 consecutive times before Congress. What is going on?
Well, it's a sick and angry world for a lot of reasons. And we're going to make it better. We're going to heal our world. We're going
His
to
ear looks
get
good.
rid of all these wars that are starting all over the place because of incompetent American
It
leadership.
does. It does look good.
And we're going to make it better. You know, Viktor Orban made a statement. They said, bring Trump back and we won't have any problems. He was very strong about that. So we're going to hopefully do very well. We have an election coming up. And actually, you know, they keep saying 60, but it starts in Delaware and North Carolina and other places a lot sooner than that. So we're going to be, I think we're going to be very well set up to do a great job. And do we love Pennsylvania? Do we love it?
Let me ask you. Mr. President, let me ask you this. Between
America. I question that shooting, honestly, and I really dislike conspiracy theorists. Come on, man. There was an entire investigation, a bipartisan investigation. People died. I don't think his ear was injured that much. I've nicked my ear trimming old man hair, and it does bleed a lot, but I think he overplays the injuries, but it was still an attempt. Exactly. He probably does overplay it, and he should. Someone tried to shoot him. If someone tries to kill you, you can whine about it for a couple weeks. Being honest, like his injuries, no, they weren't that bad. Stand back and stand by. All right.
This is a very tough interview.
One thing I'll say is that we did great in 2016. We did much better in 2020. We got millions of more votes. But there has never been enthusiasm like we have now. I mean, I see it all over. There's never been anything like it. And I hear the polls are very close, and we have a little lead, I just find it hard to believe because, first of all, they've been so bad. They've done such a bad job, but that's why the enthusiasm's so good, because they never had anything to compare it by. I ran, and I didn't have anything at all. I just was a successful businessman, and we did a good campaign. But the next time we had something special. We could talk about what we did, but we never could imagine we'd have borders where 20 million people have poured into our country. Many criminals from all over the world are coming into our country. They're coming from jails, from not just South America, from all over the world. They're coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen. They're coming from prisons. They're allowing prisoners to come out of all countries. They had almost 180 countries represented over the last number of months. 180. Most people don't know that you have that many countries. They're emptying out their prisons and jails. They're emptying out their mental institutions and insane asylums. They're emptying out the sickest people, and they're emptying all into the United States. And you said it better than anybody. More terrorists have come into the United States in the last 3 years than I think probably 50 years. There's never been anything like it. These people are so bad. They're so dangerous. What they've done to our country is they're destroying our country, and we can't let this happen. If they won, you'd have not 20 million, you'll have 100 million people. You won't have Social Security, you won't have Medicare, you won't have anything. Already, if you take a look at the numbers, they're filling up and loading up Social Security, Medicare with illegal immigrants that have come into our country, many of them from jails and many of them from very bad places. And we're not going to destroy our country, Sean.
I'm going to play Kamala Harris and the comments that she has made about the border, because I think this is important.
Just a question in the back of the mind. I don't think that assassination was false. I don't think it's a false flag. That's just me. Is he being a little humble? What's going on? Who is this guy? Not leading by a landslide. Make him look like a hero and only cost one MAGA and one patsy. I mean, he did get shot. Are you trying to say the Republicans gave him like a blood capsule to put on his ear and then killed two people that supported them? Is that your conspiracy theory here? Stupid Trump stream of consciousness. Yeah, that's kind of how his flow of conversation goes. It's a little bit all over the place sometimes. I take it with a grain of salt. Okay. All right. That's fair. Fair enough.
Important. I want to play her in her own words about this. You're right. We have people, almost 11 million plus. We don't know how many gotaways there are. We have hundreds of known terrorists that have entered the country. We don't know what countries they've come from. We're allowing people in. They've come in from Iran, Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, China, tens and tens of thousands, Russia, Venezuela. I don't think they're coming here because they want a better life, as maybe some other people are. And we know nothing about them. We haven't vetted them. I scroll the names often on this show of people that have been murdered, people that have been raped.
Wow, look at her. All these good choices, and it's not even 8 a.m.
Oh my God.
That's really going to...
People victims of violent crime. And this is all happening by unvetted Harris Biden illegal immigrants. What is your... Well, I can play your tape. I'll play that maybe after your answer, but... What is your reaction to you've spoken to some of the families of lovers?
I said at the beginning, I said, I heard they were going to have open borders. They want open borders. She wants open borders. Now she's all of a sudden saying, I think we'll close the borders. She was the border czar, whether you like it or not. But even if you don't want to use that term, she was in charge of the border. It's the worst border in the history of the world.
I do think the shooter was a patsy, limited internet history in this day and age, and seems suspicious. Do you think the Russian propaganda got him? Ooh, see? Connection. Gotta say, that was a hell of a picture taken right after Trump's assassination, holding up his hand in front of the waving American flag, fucking turning Trump into a martyr without him being dead. Yeah, you can't deny that was badass. You can't deny it.
Not just here. There's never been a country that allowed 21 million people to come in over a 3-year period. There's never been. And 21 million people, many of whom are from prisons, many of whom are murderers and drug dealers and child traffickers. And by the way, women traffickers. You know, women trafficking is the biggest, and they're traffickers in women. And they're coming in now, and they're putting them in our Social Security accounts, and they're putting them in our Medicare. And just one thing, it's, if you take a look over the last week, I said this was going to happen, and it's happening, because these people are tougher than our criminals. Our criminals are nice people by comparison. That's the only good thing. We're showing how nice our criminals are. They came from, 22 people recently came from the Congo in Africa. Where do you come from? Prison. What did you do? We refuse to say. We're letting everybody in. We're letting everybody in. Take a look at Aurora in Colorado, where Venezuelans are taking over the whole town. They're taking over buildings, the whole town, and the sheriff, who can blame them?
That stuff going on in Colorado is insane. I'll give him that. They need to do something about that quickly. I think the shooter was caught searching something he shouldn't have been and forced into the attempt, but that's just me. Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Who knows? That's something we're probably never going to know. Or they're going to wait until we're all on our deathbeds before they release that kind of information, like JFK. Are we talking about, and we are talking about a lifelong con man, so maybe.
I mean, they have AK-47s. You saw it the other day. They're knocking down doors and occupying apartments of people. The people are petrified, and it's getting worse and worse. You look at New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and now you look at all over the place. You take a look at Iowa, Idaho, places that never had the problem. They're pouring in. 21 million people, that's bigger than New York. And we have to stop it. And we have to do the largest deportation in the history.
Those people yelling are starting to get annoying.
Let me play for you. And this is really a problem for the campaign, in my view, is early voting's about to start, and I don't know how many Americans are truly familiar with her positions of decriminalizing illegal immigration and free housing, health care, education. Tim Walz wants free college education, legal driver's licenses.
I was so honored today.
And she wants a path to citizenship.
His brother endorsed me.
I saw it.
And his whole family. I saw the picture.
His whole family.
And honestly, it was a very nice looking family. But his brother endorsed me, and the whole family endorsed me. I said, who are all the people?
Let me play.
I saw the statement from his brother endorsing Trump, but I didn't see anything about his whole family endorsing him.
God, there's something weird with that guy. He's a weird guy. JD is not weird. He's a solid rock. I happen to be a very solid rock. We're not weird. We're other things perhaps, but we're not weird. But he is a weird guy. He walks on the stage. There's something wrong with that guy. And he called me weird. And then the fake news media picks it up. That was the word of the day. Weird, weird, weird. They're all going. But we're not weird guys. We're very solid people that want our country to be great again. I mean, it's very simple.
Let's play Kamala in her own words on the issue of immigration.
This whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
I haven't been to...
What? Oh, shit. You haven't been to the border. That was good.
Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
You support giving universal health care, Medicare for all to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period. We have to have a secure border, but I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct. The border is secure. Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
These Republicans, they control. I'll give him that. He may be a lifelong con man, but remember in 2015 when rappers were rapping about being like Trump, everyone loved Trump until he ran. That's true. Absolutely true. He was on Oprah. Every rap song was about being like Trump. They were going to be the boss man. She's such an oddball. Yeah, she's out there for sure. I can't believe you never seen that border clip. I say that every day in conversation. I've never seen that one specifically where the dude just called her out. I was like, you've never been to the border. Like, ooh, what do I say to that? She had no response. She's an Oakland gal, my hometown. Okay. All right. Let's see what Trump had to respond to this one.
So, and now she wants to offer a path to citizenship, which by any definition would be amnesty. Your reaction?
But, well, before you even start with that, of course it's ridiculous. You can't do it. No country could sustain this, but she wants no fracking in Pennsylvania. She wants no fracking. And she said it 100 times. There will be no fracking. There will be no fracking.
But she changed her opinion on fracking. Now she wants fracking, but yet she said her values didn't change. And I'm just confused on what her position actually is.
There will be no fracking. Then just recently she said, yes, I could approve fracking.
Yeah. Right here.
This is a woman who is dangerous. I don't think too smart, but let's see. But she loses her train of thought a lot. She goes, that's why she doesn't want to do interviews. Can you imagine her doing an interview like this or like any of them? I mean, she did an interview with Dana Bash on CNN. And, you know, I have to tell you, Dana Bash did the debate with Joe Biden with, I used to call him Fake Tapper, but I don't do that anymore. You know why? Because he was very honorable and so was she. And I thought that she would give a fair interview based on the debate because she was fair. I was surprised, to be honest with you. I didn't expect that, but she was fair. I thought I did well. I don't think he did too well.
No, Tim Walz did terrible in that interview. And Dana was feeding Kamala the answers, like giving her the answers pretty much. It was really bad.
Although a friend of mine said, you shouldn't have done the interview. He's not going to make it. And you know what? He didn't make it. You know, think of this. It's very unfair in a lot of ways. I complain about it. But she ran against him in the primary. She got no votes. And she was the first to leave. 22 people or something like that. And she dropped. She was down to nothing, never even made Iowa. And he got 14 million votes and they threw him out. They said, we want you out. And he wasn't going to win, I don't think. I mean, I don't think he was going to win, but we did a good debate. We had a good debate, and it was a fair debate. And he was down like 18 or 19 points after the debate. And I hate mosquitoes. I'm surprised. I didn't think we had. We don't like those mosquitoes running around. We want nothing to do with them. And we want nothing to do with bad politicians that hate us.
We're back in Vegas.
Oh, my God. Why is my ad blocker not working? What the hell?
Our country, too. You want to know the truth. But they went to him and they said, we want you out. You're not going to win. And it was really a coup when you think about it. And the woman who came in, the person that came in last, I mean, she came in last. She was the first one out of all those people. You had many people that did pretty well. It was actually close at the end. And then in South Carolina, and by the way, New Hampshire was so badly treated by the Democrat Party and by Joe Biden and her. I can't imagine New Hampshire voting for him. Anybody in New Hampshire, because they're watching right now, but anybody in New Hampshire that votes for Biden and Kamala, I really think, I call her a comrade Kamala because that's what her ideology is. But
she doesn't want fracking, but she's being bipartisan and making concessions. She still has the same goals of protecting the environment. Could you imagine if a Republican came out and obviously they're going to be pro-gun, and then they just flipped and said that now they want to ban guns, but they would say that their values didn't change. It's questionable. Your values did change. If you're changing your stance on issues, that's a change of values. There's really no other way of putting it. You could say like, yeah, she's trying to be bipartisan, but that just doesn't work with your goals. Doesn't make sense. My cousin was Oakland PD and he loathes Kamala. He worked with her a couple of times and he says she was horrible.
You know that she did something after decades and decades and decades. It was Iowa, the first two, Iowa, New Hampshire. And that's the way people thought it was going to be. He didn't want to go to New Hampshire. He didn't want to play the New Hampshire game. And so he went to a different state. We won't mention. It's a great state. I won it by a lot. I love that state. But he dumped New Hampshire. And I said to people today, who the hell from New Hampshire would vote for this guy? He changed the whole primary system. He changed the whole system because he took them out of the order. I think it's going to have a big effect. We really want to win New Hampshire. I've done well there, and we really want to win New Hampshire.
Let me go back to the issue, and it's a big issue in the state of Pennsylvania, and you mentioned it. And let me just tell the audience so everybody's fully aware, is that tonight Fox offered a debate opportunity between you and Kamala Harris, and I was not going to be here, but it was going to be Brett and Martha.
This was supposed to be a debate.
Right. So
I would have preferred.
I
think he's a nice guy, but I would have preferred a debate.
Thanks a lot.
But this is the best we could do, Sean.
You're stuck with me. Let me though play, but there's a big issue in this state, is the issue of banning fracking.
So that's just a reminder that Kamala would not agree to a Fox News debate. She only wants to debate on her platform with her rules. And that's the issue that they've been having. They were supposed to do 3 debates, but because she only wants her platform, they're doing 1 right now, which is going to be in 5 days. There are a lot of components in the plan, so you keep fracking for a little longer and make up for it in other ways. There is no plan, though. We can go to her website right now. What are they saying? We have like 58 days or so until the election. She still has nothing on her website. So until there's actually a laid out plan, a document somewhere that is a plan, she has no plan. He would. I think you're responding to Chad. Chad said, honestly surprised he hasn't slipped up and said camel toe instead of Kamala. Or definitely comrade is what he's been going with for a while.
Fracking. Now, in that, I thought it was a horrible interview and a missed opportunity. Do you know, for 16 minutes, she spoke for 16 minutes and 29 seconds. And that whole interview, the only interview, you and J.D. Vance have done, this is your 36th interview or press conference between the two of you. And we don't know if she supports the Green New Deal she co-sponsored with Bernie Sanders that would cost $93 trillion. We don't know if she stands by that. We don't know if she supports Medicare for all that would eliminate all private health insurance. We don't know if she would really ban fracking. Now, in the CNN interview, she said, well, I said in 2020 that, I would not ban fracking. CNN had to fact check her and say, no, she never said it. This is what she really said.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
So would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes. And I've, again, worked on that.
There you go.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
So the issue is she says one thing and then she says the other thing of the opposite, who she's actually talking to at the time. And I just want to show you guys again. I've brought this up probably a million times, but just, you know, we're getting closer and closer to the election. So here is Kamala's website. I'm not being biased. I'm literally at her website. You can donate. You can get her biography or Tim Walz's biography. You can take action where you donate your time or whatever. And there's a store where you buy t-shirts, but there are no policies on here. There are no policies at all. You can't see what she's actually doing. It's constantly been like this, and we don't know what she's doing. So this is a good criticism by Trump because we don't know what she's doing. She keeps flip-flopping on the issue. She's stealing Trump's policies. Come on. And she does this in a way that she can't be held accountable. That's the whole point. She doesn't want to put her policies out there in writing so somebody can come along and say, oh, well, this was actually on your website. Here's the document of things that you want to accomplish, so she can backtrack. That's the plan.
You're a better businessman than I am. Isn't energy, fracking, oil the lifeblood of the world's economy?
So, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Paul says climate research and planning isn't new, and she isn't a scientist. She will be following the advice of experts in the field. So why hasn't she talked to experts? She's the vice president, came up with a plan, put it on her website for what she actually wants to do. Why does she not have policies? That's not an excuse that she's talking to scientists. Talk to them now. What's the current research? What is her current plan for what they're saying right now? Is she planning to wait until she's in the office to come up with the plan? Is that somebody that we should vote for? How can you run for office if you don't have a plan? Doesn't make sense to me.
Cannot even take a chance because
here we are driving down the road and all of a sudden, bang! There's a crack in our windshield. You know what we can do?
Because that's the real opinion from her. Now, the whole country would go down the tubes if you didn't do the fossil fuel thing. It just would go. And you can do all sorts of other things. But, you know, Germany tried it, and it lasted for about 9 months, and they were going to go down the tubes entirely. And somebody else came in, and I hate to say, they're building a coal plant every single week, and they're building nuclear, and they're doing a lot of things. It's never worked. It never will work. But Pennsylvania can't take a chance that that answer is true. But she's been there for 20 years. That's what she's been saying for a long time. And she will do that. There's no chance that she's going to allow it. The election will take place. If she won, you're not going to have any fracking in Pennsylvania. You have 500,000 jobs. Think of that. It's your biggest business. And you get a big majority of your income from fracking, and you have somebody that's not going to allow fracking. She's not going to allow it. You can't take the chance. You have no choice. You've got to vote for me. You've got to vote for me. You got to. Even if you don't like me, you know. Yeah. It's no, but even if you don't like me, you can sit there and say, I can't stand that guy, but there's no way I'm going to vote for her. No, you have to have fracking. You know, you're the biggest in the country for this. You have two of the biggest sites in the world. It's a massive business for Pennsylvania, and you can't take a chance. She will not allow fracking. She's not going to, and she's got a lot of other problems too. But for your particular, for the Commonwealth, you have no choice
if I may,
but to allow it.
16 minutes and 30 seconds are up. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
The president has spoken for a total of 16 minutes and 30 seconds.
Damn.
I'll say something else.
Real quick, because we got to break.
If you watch that interview, she had notes. That means she knew the questions, and she had notes. She kept looking down, up. Nobody wants to cover it. I know all about notes. I mean, you know, it's all right if people know that, but she wasn't supposed to have notes.
She had notes and cuts in the interview, all this bullshit. Also, there's a 2024 Democrat Party platform, but you're right. She needs to be publishing more. Keep in mind, she wasn't expecting to run and was kind of last minute. Okay, but she's been running for months now. So she should have her policies. And plus, she's the vice president. She should know what she believes in. I just don't see how anybody could vote for her, liking her position, you know, when they don't actually know what she stands for. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me at all, man. I don't see how anybody can vote for it. They're voting for her because they don't like Trump. I get that, you know, and there's probably reasons for people not to like Trump. I definitely understand it. But this is not how a election is supposed to be run. You vote for people with the different policies and decide whose policies you like more. But when a candidate doesn't have their policies, that's wrong. She's doing it because she doesn't want to be held accountable. If it's on writing on her webpage saying, this is what I'm going to do, here's how I'm going to do it, people can hold her accountable. With the clips that Fox News is doing right now, it's very easy for someone to say that's misinformation. These were clipped together to make me look bad, and people will believe that because it happens all the time. We don't see certain context of things. That I think we can agree on that with the clips. That could definitely be misinformation. But with a document on your webpage stating exactly what you want to do, and then you flip-flop and do something else, people can hold you accountable. I liked her in the primary, but preferred Warren. Okay. Let's see what else they have to say.
So she's asked a question. She looks down. She had notes.
I'm going to look that up, Paul. I'm going to see if we can find the note thing.
That means she knew that she knew what was happening.
Did her campaign, when they said that they wanted to change the rules that they had agreed to, did they ask for notes? Did they ask for the...
They wanted notes.
They wanted to be seated, and they wanted your mic hot.
And they wanted a desk. They didn't want to do... I said, you got to do a stand-up.
After they already agreed to the other.
Yeah, but they wanted a desk from the beginning. You know who else wanted a desk? Sleepy Joe. He wanted a desk.
All right, we got to take a break. More with President...
Okay, so this is CNN. We could say CNN's probably biased towards her, but let's just see what CNN has to say about the note thing. So, all right. So it says Trump, who has repeatedly insulted the intelligence of Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, claimed that Harris used speaking notes to assist her in her interview with CNN anchor Dana Bash last night. Trump said, if you watch that interview, they put a typo there. She had notes. That means that she knew questions. She had notes. She kept looking down. Honestly, that's probably not a typo. That's just how Trump talks. So that threw me off a whole bunch. Nobody wants to cover it. He continued, I know all about notes. I mean, it's all right if people know that, but she wasn't supposed to have notes. And here's facts first. Trump's claims are false. Harris did not use notes during the CNN interview. Photos and videos of the interview make it clear that the only notes on the table belonged to Bash, as CNN staffers who were present confirm. And CNN did not inform Harris of any questions in advance. A CNN spokesperson called Trump's claim that Harris had prior knowledge of the questions categorically false. So obviously CNN's going to say that, of course, she didn't, have notes and all that stuff. That's her media branch, right? Same way Fox News is putting all the clips together right now about Trump. So that's definitely, let me see if I can find another source. But I just wanted to bring that one up because that's going to be the most biased towards her. See if they had any kind of like jaw-dropping facts that no, she definitely didn't have notes.
Trump, we are in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We'll continue our town hall. We'll get audience questions and much more. Thank you for being here.
You must have the courage to object when they use that term, radical Islamic terrorism, which ignores how Muslims have overwhelmingly been the greatest victims of terror. And we must also have the courage to reject that term, illegal alien. I have seen some of the worst of criminal behavior. I have seen the worst of crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
All right, we continue in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We're broadcasting in front of a massive crowd. By the way, we have in our audience, he is the Republican challenger to a 98.6% Joe Biden, Kamala Harris voting supportable. Dave McCoy, clothing, and Senator Casey in what is a very important race. Dave, great to have you.
Thank you. Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need.
I'm not seeing anything about her having notes, so I guess we just go with CNN, what they said to be true.
Kamala Harris, our country's failed border czar, talking about her commitment. You need the courage to never say the word radical Islamic terrorism or illegal.
CNN wants a horse race. They give Trump a lot of leeway. Yeah, recently they have been, but for this, I don't know, this instance, we look at CNN. Let's go ahead and say that that's false. Let's say Trump's lying. because I'm not seeing anything otherwise. I only have the CNN information. Thinking back to the interview, I didn't see her with notes specifically. He said she was looking up and down. Maybe that's true, but she's also very nervous in that interview. Maybe avoiding eye contact a little bit. So maybe that was it. We need like a photo. Like, here's her notes. This is actually what happened to say, yeah, she had notes. MSNBC is more aligned with liberals than CNN these days. Yeah, there is a slight kind of turn going on, but as you can tell from the Dana Bash interview, obviously CNN is still on her side. I hand out in liberal spaces, and there is no love for CNN. Yeah, because they're turning on her. They've done some recent interviews where they question her policies, specifically like price controls, things like that.
Legal alien. President Trump is back with us. What is your reaction to that? Because who attacked us on 9/11 and who's crossing our border?
So she wants to be politically correct, and we can't be politically correct anymore. Look, we have October 7th. People saw it. We have things going on in the world right now with Israel and with the Middle East is blowing up. It's blowing up. We have Ukraine and Russia. That would never happen. That would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. If I were the president, it would have never happened, and everybody knew it. Iran was broke. They didn't have the money for Hamas and for Hezbollah. They didn't have the money for anybody. They wanted to get by. And we would have made a fair deal with them. I was only looking to make a fair deal with them. But, you know, I wanted to say it so much during my term. We went 4 years without any blow-ups. We had no World Trade Center blow-up. We had no radical Islamic terror. We had no radical Islamic terror because we were very tough at the borders and we were very tough with our statements, and we had the whole world was a safe place. That was the question they asked Viktor Orban, who's really considered a very strong. They said he's a strong man. Sometimes you need a strong man. He's a strong man. He's the prime minister of Hungary. And he said, you bring back Trump, everybody. Now, I'm not saying it, but he said it because I'd rather say respect. But he said, everybody was afraid of Trump. You bring him back, you're not going to have any problems. It's all going to go away. The world is blowing up. The world is blowing up.
Well, this brings...
And Sean, one thing?
Yeah.
The world is blowing up. And when you look at Ukraine and you look at Russia, you look at all the things that are happening, we are potentially getting ready. I'm telling you, and I've made a lot of predictions, and this is not a prediction because it's so bad. I don't want it to be a prediction. We're heading into World War III territory. And because of the power of weapons, nuclear weapons in particular, but other weapons also, and I know the weapons better than anybody because
I jacked up that. But yeah, I got what you're saying, where they say like Dems execute babies. That whole abortion thing is just a whole big ball of lies where they say like Trump is doing a national abortion ban. That's a lie. They needed to run with the facts there to say that, okay, he removed Roe versus Wade. That left it to the states. Now the states have the decision, which is very bad for women because they could obviously ban abortion in those states. If they would have ran with that and been more honest, I'd been on board, but they're not doing that. They're labeling it a Trump abortion ban and kind of weaving into that. And you have it on the Republican side too, where they say, oh, they're killing babies, you know, like nobody's going to be honest about this issue, about what's actually going on. You're not going to get the details until you actually look into it.
I'm the one that bought them and, we rebuilt our entire military. We upgraded our entire program. And, the one program I hated to upgrade, hated it, was the nuclear program. And I understand it maybe better than anybody. My uncle was at MIT, a professor, the longest serving professor in the history of MIT, a very smart guy. We have a smart family. It's nice to have a smart family. But I understood nuclear for a long time. the power of nuclear weapons. You need a president that's not going to be taking you into war. We won't have World War III when I'm elected, but with these clowns that you have in there now, you're going to end up having World War III, and it's going to be a war like no other.
Let me ask you a more personal question, because you paid a very big price for getting into the political arena. Never mind opportunity costs that you would have had. You've had a successful business. Obviously, you've been a victim of lawfare, if you will, or a weaponized Department of Justice. Although the Supreme Court ruling on immunity, I think, was very clear, although certain judges may not abide by it.
Yeah.
And I listened to you talk about the borders. I listened to you talk about how dangerous the world situation is. I listened to you talk about the economy. And
when you can set up reliable Spectrum internet and
Trump will do whatever he thinks will be politically advantageous to him. That's why he flipped overnight. Of course he will.
Why is this
politician, you know?
different? If 2016 was about the forgotten man and forgotten woman, what is 2024 about?
So it's not that different. It's still about the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. The people are being treated horribly in this country.
And Trump is responsible for the fact that women are bleeding out in hospital parking lots. Yes, I don't disagree with that. It's the way they spin it. If they would spin it as, hey, this is what happened and here was the conclusion and now these people are voting this way and removing abortion, it seems disingenuous to say, oh, now he's doing a national abortion ban. That's not, you're leaving out fine details, but I'm with you that it's an issue. Yeah, I'm not for banning abortion, as I'm leaning more probably towards the right. That's one of the issues where I think he could be attacked if they were legitimate with what they're saying, but they almost lie about how they're getting to it, because I don't know if they think Americans are just stupid and they can't get an American to follow the trail of information, what actually happened, and this is why he's bad. So they need to just label it Trump's abortion ban, which is dishonest. I don't know if that's it. They just think Americans are dumb. They can throw it up on a headline, make it quicker, easier for people to comprehend. I don't know.
We're a country that's being laughed at all over the world. And I'll be honest, if Joe Biden would be a great president, I would be happier than being the worst president in the history of our country, because I want to see what's good for the country. And I would have been very happy. I have very nice places I could be. This is not easy. I got shot at, I got hit. I could have been all over that place. I could have, but you know what? It's very simple, and it starts with make America great again. That's what we have to do.
It makes me think that if you look at everything that we discussed tonight, and you look at your
agreed. You said I think he owns those bans in the States, Trump's bans. I agree with that in a way. I just don't agree with how it's phrased.
platform.
Thank you.
What really infuriates me.
But I guess my main issue is when she comes out and she says Trump's gonna do a national abortion ban. He's never said that. He never wanted to do it. It's not honest. But yeah, we could agree that he owns the bans that actually happen in the Republican states. Sure. But he's not nationally banning abortion. That's where they take it a step farther and they have to lie about it.
And I'm straightforward. I'm a member of the press, but I'm a talk show host. I'm a conservative, and people know where I stand. I think the press, they're all liberal talk show hosts, but they're dishonest about who they are, and they have an agenda. They've never played Kamala in her own words. Her radical statements, her extreme statements, I think dangerous statements. And I just think that if we're talking about the border, all of these 11 million, it was all preventable. I think on the economy, if you had sound economic policy, you handed off 1.4% inflation, we'd be doing better in the economy. We'd be energy dominant by now because we were on a path towards energy dominance. We wouldn't have to, Iran was in check. You had them on the verge of bankruptcy. Russia, you had a relationship with them, and North Korea and the mullahs in Iran.
But nobody was talking.
I think he really failed to answer that question. Yeah, because it is a weak point in his campaign. Kamala set him up with a lie, which was what I was saying about the abortion thing. She set him up with a lie, so now he doesn't have to answer the question. He can say, oh, she's a liar. Obviously, he runs long with a big paragraph, but all he's doing is running around saying, that's not true, she's a liar, blah, 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 blah. She set him up, you know? The judges he appointed had a direct effect on Roe versus Wade. Yeah, absolutely. Agree with you.
Tougher with Russia than me. I shut down the biggest pipeline in the world that Russia was building. It was called Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of it. And I said, no way. I said to Germany, there's no way we're going to protect you with NATO and spend billions of dollars protecting Europe, and you guys are going to be buying oil from the person and the group that we're protecting you from. And I shut it down. It was 100% shut down. And then this pathetic person comes in, and he immediately approves it. But he shut down the Keystone XL pipeline, our pipeline. And the head of that union, by the way, the pipe fitters union, the pipeline union, the head of that union nominated and was a big deal in the Biden campaign, and he endorsed him. And those people, 48,000 people lost their jobs. It was all approved. I got it approved.
Got an email from the campaign apologizing for my hat taking so long. Those things must be selling like hotcakes.
Obama rejected it. I approved it. It was starting. They spent billions of dollars. It was also, and they rejected it. It would have been fantastic for us, including the 48,000 jobs. And what he did is he let Russia build the pipeline that I had stopped. It was totally stopped. Going to Germany and other countries. Think of it. We protect them from Russia, and yet they pay Russia billions of dollars. Does it make sense? So we
got a camo hat and a coffee mug. That's all we can afford. Well, they're probably marked up to help her campaign. I think people probably know that the prices are high because it's being used to help her. You know, it's not, you're not trying to get a sale on a coffee cup, you know? You're trying to support her and show you support her.
Was the toughest on Russia. Putin would even say, you know, if you're not the toughest guy, you're killing us. I'd hate to see you if you were really tough. This was the biggest job they've ever had, and I stopped it. And you know what? Russia would have been fine. China would have been fine. China was fine. China paid us hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs under me. Under no other president, and I mean right from the beginning, did they pay 10 cents.
You know, we're going to get to audience questions. I do have a question.
I'd rather get something though. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's nice you got a coffee cup out of it. Hell yeah.
As we go to break, I think this should be a question asked in every presidential election, and I'll ask the people here in Harrisburg, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Okay, when we come back, more of former President Trump. We're in Harrisburg, PA, as we continue.
What is this? Did they cut it off? I'm fast forwarding through it. Why is this like... I guess that's the end of it. Yeah, full end. I guess that was the end of it. All right. Fair enough. That was a weird ending. I guess that was that guy's way of trying to get around copyright. Putting some chick weaving some, not weaving, sewing, or what knitting. The hell am I talking about? Knitting. That was probably his way of getting around copyright, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how it works. But that was a bootleg video. Yeah, it was definitely a bootleg video because Fox is taking down all of those interviews. They want that money, man. Wasn't really the end. Yeah, I don't know if I have the end, though. Because they keep taking down all the videos. It was pretty much it, though. They're pretty much... He's saying all the same shit. You know, nothing new, really.
Ramstein, Secretary.
What else is going on? Let me see. Let me see what PBS is up to. I'll live. Yeah, man. I think that was it, dude. They just same old, same old. I think we're all just kind of ready for the debates because a lot of these lies that we're talking about from each side, when you get the two of them in there and they can kind of fact check each other at least, maybe some kind of truth will come out. So Biden speaking at 4, Tim Walz is doing a campaign at 6, and Vance is also doing a campaign at 6. They're doing it at the same time. Oh, the Pentagon is doing their brief. Let me check that out. Is this still live? Oh, that's the live point. Let me start from the beginning, though. Let's see what they're talking about. Will be entertaining for sure. Hell yeah. It's going to be the greatest. It's going to be the greatest entertainment we've ever seen. Let me see what the Pentagon's saying about all this crazy misinformation campaigns and stuff. All right, so here is today's Pentagon briefing. I think they're going to be talking about Russian misinformation as well, kind of like what the DOJ was talking about earlier. Let's see what she has to say.
Of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, will bring together ministers of defense and senior military officials from some 50 nations to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs to defend its people from Russian aggression. Some key focus areas of this UDCG will include bolstering Ukraine's air defense capabilities, updates on the UDCG's capability coalitions, to include the Air Force Coalition, and the energizing of the defense industrial bases of coalition nations to enable support to Ukraine for the long haul. As Secretary Austin has said, Ukraine matters to U.S. and international security, and the efforts of the UDCG continue to play a vital role in Ukraine's fight for freedom and their sovereignty. Turning to our humanitarian efforts in Gaza, the MV Cape Trinity completed its offload of approximately 6 million pounds of humanitarian aid in Ashdod. Over the next couple days, the Cape Trinity will prepare for its trip back to the port of Beaumont in Texas. The 6 million pounds of aid delivered this week brings the total aid delivered to the people of Gaza through the maritime and air corridors to more than 38 million pounds. This effort represents the highest volume of humanitarian assistance the U.S. military has ever delivered in the Middle East. Switching gears, yesterday, Secretary Austin spoke by phone to his Philippine counterpart, Secretary of National Defense Teodoro. The two leaders discussed U.S.-Philippine defense ties following the productive U.S.-Philippines 2+2 ministerial dialogue in July. Secretary Austin also reaffirmed the ironclad U.S. commitment to the Philippines following recent dangerous and escalatory actions by the People's Republic of China against lawful Philippine maritime operations in the South China Sea. Both officials discussed the importance of preserving the rights of all nations to fly, sail, and operate safely and responsibly wherever international law allows. And a readout of the call has been posted to defense.gov. And finally, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the recent and untimely passing of Tom Scutieri, a former member of the Pentagon Press Corps family and a dedicated journalist. Press colleagues will remember him for his birthday wishes, breakfast and lunchtime morsels, and press briefing bingo. On behalf of the Department of Defense and OSD Public Affairs, I'd like to extend our deepest condolences to his family and his 2 children, his friends, his press colleagues, and his loved ones. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions. I believe we have AP joining us via phone, so I'll
There
start
we go.
with Lita Baldor. AP.
Questions, that's what I want.
Thanks, Sabrina. Question on Secretary Del Toro. The Office of Special Counsel has found that he violated the Hatch Act. Does the Secretary or do you all have a comment on that, particularly since the Secretary has often talked about U.S. About how troops should not get involved in politics? And then secondly, do you have an update on the sailor that's been detained in Venezuela? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Lita. I'll take the your first questions first. In terms of the Office of Special Counsel report that you just referenced, we just were made aware of the report, so it's currently being reviewed. But what I can say on this issue, or broadly speaking, is earlier this year, Deputy Secretary Hicks signed out a memo that was sent to senior leadership in the department. And it stressed the importance of complying with federal law and DoD policy that addresses participation when it comes to the political process by DoD military and civilian personnel. And in the memo, it talks about the right and the right to exercise our right to vote and participate in government, but it also highlights that as public servants, we uphold DoD's longstanding tradition of remaining apolitical as we carry out our responsibilities. And so just to emphasize on that, it's important that we maintain the trust and confidence of the American people, which requires us to avoid any action that could imply the support of any political party, candidate, or campaign. So I'll leave it at that. In terms of your second question on the U.S. sailor in Venezuela, I don't have more other than to confirm that a U.S. sailor was detained in Venezuela around August 30th by Venezuelan enforcement authorities while on personal travel. The U.S. Navy is looking into this. We're working with the State Department, but at this time, I just don't have more for you. All right, I'll come back in the room here.
I just looked that up really quick, and still there's no source on why he's being detained. He was on personal travel, so no information's out yet. That's directly from CBS News that they don't have anything.
Idris.
Do you have an update on how many forces are currently in the Middle East? I know it's 40,000 or so.
Yeah.
And just following on to that, how long do you think you can keep the additional squadron that was sent there sort of in an efficient and sustainable manner? Is that something you just plan on having there for the foreseeable future, or is there an end date sort of thing?
So in terms of the actual numbers, I don't have more to provide than the 40,000 that I think we had provided maybe a week or two ago. In terms of any force posture movements, I don't have anything to announce at this time. But as you know, and as General Ryder, I think, briefed a few weeks ago, the TR was extended. Eventually, as we do with all carriers or rotations, there will be, she will eventually leave the AOR. But nothing to announce at this time. There's still 2 carriers that remain in the Central Command area of responsibility. And of course, we have the ARGMU in the Eastern Med, along with a company of destroyers as well.
And just switching topics,
Sure.
The ship that's on fire that was attacked by the
Yeah.
Houthis, is there any plan for the U.S. military to help salvage it, given that I know you've talked about sort of the potential environmental disaster if the oil that it's carrying starts leaking?
So my understanding is that you're referring to the MV Soyunion that's still on fire. So for an update, she still sits completely immobilized within the Red Sea, still posing an environmental, potentially catastrophic environmental disaster and a navigational hazard. She still remains on fire. My understanding is that the company of the Soyunion has contracted tugboats to go out there and to conduct, fire operations and to try and salvage the vessel itself. Those efforts have not been successful, mainly because of the security environment. The Houthis continue to fire, missiles, drones towards shipping in the Red Sea, and they have threatened tugboats that went out for salvage opportunities. They have threatened them, so they did have to turn away. So right now, the ship still remains on fire. There have been no recovery successful attempts yet. The U.S. Navy is standing by to assist, but right now I'm told that this is being done through private means. Janie.
Thank you, Sabrina. 2 questions
Sure.
on Ukraine and South Korea.
Okay.
Ukraine President Zelensky said that if the United States authorized the use of long-range missiles, Ukraine could easily defeat Russia. So why is the United States reluctant to allow Ukraine to use long-range weapons?
So thanks, Janie, for the question. Our intelligence assesses that 90% of Russian aircraft launching the glide bombs and the firing missiles against Ukraine are at airfields that are 300 kilometers away from Ukrainian-controlled territory. So these airfields now puts that out of ATACMS range. So ATACMS would not be able to reach these airfields. So therefore, the challenges posed by these glide bombs, would still remain. And even if Ukraine, were to use ATACMS against the very small percentage of the airfields that remain in range, we've seen the Russian military move those airfields back. So again, the impact would be very little and of very little strategic value. And you had another question?
Yeah, thank you. And does the United States still want South Korea to provide additional weapons, including 155 millimeter artillery set?
I think we've been very clear with all partners and allies all around the world willing and able to provide military assistance to Ukraine, including 155 millimeter rounds that we know they desperately need to help Ukraine in their fight. I won't speak for other nations and what they're providing, but as I mentioned at the top, there is a UDCG tomorrow. Air defense is one of the many topics that is going to come up at that UDCG. We know a priority for Ukraine is those 155 millimeter rounds. So whatever other nations can provide would certainly be welcome to Ukraine. I'm going to go to the phones and then come back in the room. Jeff Shogol, Task and Purpose.
Thank you. There's been a lot of information recently about Russian influence operations. I was just checking, has Kevin Costner been in the Pentagon recently?
Jeff, not to my knowledge. Next question goes to Carla Babb, VOA.
Hey, thanks for doing this. That's a great question to follow. I want to go back to Ukraine. At the current pace that the U.S. is providing Ukraine aid under the PDA, it looks like about $6 billion in authority is going to expire unused at the end of this month, FY 2024. Could you give us some more clarity about what's going to happen to that money after September? And is there any intention to extend that authority or to ask Congress to extend that authority so that Ukraine can continue receiving PDA packages?
It's about to dry
Thanks,
up.
Carla, for the question. So as you know, we worked very hard with Congress to secure that supplemental and to allocate that money for Ukraine for these PDA packages and USAIs. I don't have anything to preview on, what that means for the rest of the amounts that are left. What I can tell you is you've seen us do this almost on a weekly basis. We continue to roll out and announce presidential drawdown packages that vary in size, but we continue to do that on a consistent basis. I have no doubt that we are going to use everything we can that's available to us to make sure that we are continuing to provide Ukraine what it needs, both in the short term and the long term. The president has said
She's
it.
like a 7 out of 10.
Before the
Come on,
secretary said it,
man.
and you'll hear him say it again. We're in this fight with Ukraine for the long haul. We are standing with them for what they need on the battlefield, both in the long and short term. So you're going to see us make use of those funds in any way possible. I'll take one more from the phone, and then I'm happy to come back in the room.
Finally.
Heather, USNI.
Thanks so much. With the Houthis in the Red Sea, are you guys noticing any kind of uptick? It seemed like they were quiet for a little bit, and then now they're attacking multiple tankers. Is there any anything that you can say about what might have been causing this most recent uptick?
Thanks, Heather. So we've seen this pattern sort of happen over the last few months or since the attack started. There is a series of waves, then there's a pause, then there are waves again. I can't speak to the strategy behind that. I can only speak to what we as the United States military are doing with our partners and allies. And of course, you're very familiar with Operation Prosperity Guardian and the fact that we continue to ensure that those shipping lanes remain open, to ensure that freedom of navigation can occur in the Red Sea. But you're seeing what the Houthis are doing on a day-to-day basis.
The dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. Are you saying she looks like a dude?
They've set on fire a oil tanker carrying 1 million barrels of crude oil. I don't need to explain to you what type of damage that could cause to an environment like the Red Sea. You're talking major ecological systems that could be destroyed. So while I can't speak to their tactics, I can speak to the fact that they're causing environmental and economic.
I'm a famous Australian actor. You lost me, man. I don't know what's going on.
Disasters right in their backyard. Leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina. In light of Middle East tensions, does the Pentagon support a United Nations-led military peacekeeping force in Gaza, West Bank, and throughout Israel? And have a follow-up.
So I don't have anything for you on that. The president has been pretty clear that there will not be U.S. boots on the ground in Gaza. But in terms of, the ceasefire deal, that's something that the United States is working very closely on with our partners and allies in the region. That would include some type of, peacekeeping force, but I don't anticipate that would include U.S. military boots on the ground.
Well, in light of Hamas using the Philadelphia corridor in Gaza to smuggle in weapons and potentially smuggle out Israeli hostages into the Sinai Desert, it's according to Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu, what is the Pentagon's perspective on the strategic military significance of the Philadelphia corridor?
I think you just mentioned some of the strategic significance of the Philadelphia corridor, but I'd really refer you to the Israelis to speak to that. We know that there are tunnels under that corridor, but ultimately what we want to see here is a ceasefire deal put into place that allows hostages to come home to their families. It's almost been a year now. But I'd refer you to the Israelis to speak more to the significance of that. Fadi.
That knowledge of the existence of tunnels underneath Philadelphia corridor, the Egyptians deny the existence of these tunnels. Can you share more about what you know about these tunnels?
I don't have more to provide other than what, is I mean, I'm not going to be able to do it, unfortunately, an intel assessment from here. I would say, broadly speaking, we know that there are tunnels on that border and in that corridor that have allowed in the past, a movement of weapons shipments into Gaza. Again, what we want to see and what we are focused on, as you know, is bringing home and making sure that we can get into place a ceasefire deal that also allows the hostages to return home.
What does you said broadly? Is this based on recent intelligence or Israeli, sharing information?
Yeah, I wish I could get into more specifics. I just won't be able to get into that from here, but I'm just gonna have to leave it at that.
I'm not asking about the type of intelligence,
Yeah.
but when you make such a claim that there are tunnels underneath the Philadelphia corridor, while Egypt is denying that, I think some explanation is warranted here.
Appreciate the question, Fadi, but I'm just not going to have more. I'd have to refer you to the Egyptians and the Israelis to speak more to that. What I can tell you is what we've seen in the past, but I'm just not going to be able to get into any more details from here.
Can you define when was the last time you...
Lazarus is the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude, and fucking Revelation thinks he's the Alpha Omega. I don't drop character until DVD commentary, bud. I have no idea what's going on right now. I'm gonna be honest.
Unfortunately, Fadi, I know this is
No
not going to
clue.
be a satisfactory answer for you. I'm just not going to be able to provide more specifics. Yeah, Matt.
Thanks, Sabrina. Going back to American restrictions on Ukraine's weapon usage, you say that the prime targets inside Russia are outside the range of ATACMS.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let this dog outside.
So then what's the purpose of these restrictions being in place? Is this to
Ma.
Protect the Ukrainians from themselves, from you think they would otherwise squander their limited ATACMS? Or is it a fear of escalation, or can you explain what the thinking is there?
Yeah, Matt, I think it's a little bit of all of those things. I think the Ukrainians, in terms of their own decision making, they have proven themselves on the battlefield just from at the very beginning of the war. I think there were many people reporting at the time that Kyiv was destined to fall within days, and then it was weeks later, months later, and now we're talking many years into this war. We've seen the prowess of the Ukrainian military on the battlefield. So they certainly know how to make their own decisions when it comes to employing these types of weapons and munitions on the battlefield. There is a limited number of ATACMs. It is not there is not an abundance of these long range type of capabilities. And of course, one thing that we're always assessing is escalation, and that's something that we've been very clear about from the beginning. So it's a bit of all of those things knitted together, but they have been very successful in using these ATACMs to take back their territory in the south and the east. And we believe that they have the capabilities and being able to knit those together on the battlefield. They do have a really significant challenge in the east, and being able to direct some of the firepower that they have that direction is what we continue to work with them on.
Will the idea of loosening restrictions possibly come up in tomorrow's contact group talks?
I can't predict the future. I'm sure, there's been a lot of conversations about that, but right now there's no change to U.S. policy. Yeah, Noah.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but the posture changes from Russia to move its assets for glide bombs beyond the 300-kilometer range, was that made after May when the initial restrictions were loosened for Ukraine from the U.S.? When did that occur?
I don't know when they started moving that, but all I can tell you is that we know that there have been airfields positioned outside of the ATACMS range.
And then secondarily, on the delivery of the last 6 million pounds of aid, does that then mean that the remaining JLOTS personnel who were there in the region will now be heading directly home, or are they still waiting on other parts of the mission?
To my knowledge, the only remaining part and component of the JLOTS was that Cape Trinity, so they will be heading home. I'm not tracking that there are any other remaining parts or pieces associated with JLOTS, or personnel, I should say, associated with JLOTS still left in the region. Yeah, yes, in the back.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. On 2nd of September, two U.S. security personnel were attacked by a group of 15 people in Izmir, Turkey. Those people belonged to Nationalist Party of Turkey. How concerning is this for the United States, such exposure of U.S. military personnel to such kind of nationalist group in terms of security of the U.S. security personnel abroad?
So I don't have much more to add than to what General Ryder spoke to earlier this week. I think it showed tremendous professionalism on the part of our Marines that were attacked there. We fully support the local police looking into this incident. I believe the Naval Criminal Investigative Services are also cooperating with local authorities on this incident. So we're happy that everyone is safe, that everyone is back on that on the ARG-MU. But again, I just don't have more to add as it's an ongoing investigation with local authorities. Great. Yes, in the back.
A quick question on first Armenian-American military drills that were held recently in Armenia, Eagle Partner 2024. I was wondering if you have any comments on these drills and in a more broader context about the current stage of military cooperation with the country of Armenia or the perspectives.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of the drill, so I don't have anything to offer on this one. Constantine. I would refer you to the COCOM. I just don't have anything more to add. Constantine.
Thanks, Sabrina. Going back to the sailor in Venezuela, so the last time a U.S. service member was sort of detained or connected with Venezuela was Jordan Goudreau, who was a special forces operator looking to basically lead a small coup. Are there any concerns that this sailor being detained as part of something more significant, deeper?
I'm not going to speculate, but I don't think so. That being said, I have very little details as this sailor was on personal travel to Venezuela. This wasn't something that was authorized. And as you know, the State Department recommends against traveling there. So, the U.S. Navy working closely with the State Department, I have very little details on this incident. Of course, we'd like to see this sailor returned home, but again, I'd refer you to the State Department for any further questions, and of course, don't want to go down the rabbit hole of speculating. Yeah. Yes, we'll go in this row.
Yeah, I have a question about if you can talk a little bit more about the presence of the U.S. militaries off the coast of Israel. The two ships and if the submarine is still there. And if you can talk a little bit more about the presence of the military, and if there is some sort of coordination with some European forces to support the U.S. in case of escalation? And then I have a second question about Ukraine.
Okay. So nothing has changed in our force posture in the Eastern Mediterranean. The USS Georgia is still in the EUCOM area of responsibility. We still have our destroyers. We still have the ARGMU that's there. It's, I would say, still sending a very strong message of deterrence in the region. And also, you know, should Israel come under attack, that's what that force posture is there to do, is to help defend Israel if they were to be attacked like they were on April 13th. But I don't have any changes to announce for our force posture.
Are you guys asking for any support from the, let's say, the Italian or Southern European forces?
What do you mean by
Military forces?
support?
Like to support the American ships, and you know, like having like European militaries also in the region supporting the Americans, not being only the Americans taking care of the area.
We're always working with our partners and allies in the region. It is, you know, in the Eastern Mediterranean, so I think you would expect that there are countries with a naval presence tied to Europe that are constantly operating there. You know, we do regular exercises with our European allies. I don't have anything to read out from here, but of course we're always coordinating with them and working with them on a daily basis.
And my second question, if you can talk a little bit more about the traveling of the secretary in Germany, about what can we expect, if you can, you know, what's they're gonna, you know, you probably have some information that you can share with us about what they're planning to talk, when we expect coming out from this meeting.
Well, I'm just gonna have to tell you to tune in tomorrow, but look,
Okay.
I don't have more to really provide than what I read out at the top, which is that this is, you know, the 24th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. We know air defenses is one of the top priorities for the Ukrainians. That's certainly something that's going to be discussed tomorrow. We know fires, so 155 millimeter rounds, also a priority for the Ukrainians. That's something that I'm sure will come up. But I, you know, not going to get ahead of the secretary, but, you know, I think you can expect some of those conversations. And then, you know, as I mentioned, there are 8 capability coalitions that have been stood up as part of the UDCG. Those capability coalitions, including the Air Coalition, is one that the United States co-leads. So that will be an opportunity to talk about other additional needs that the Ukrainians have.
Right.
Yes.
Let the dog back in.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. About the Middle East crisis, so what is the latest assessments of the Pentagon regarding any potential action by Iran against Israel?
Really don't have much more to provide than what we've said before, which is that, you know, we've maintained a very robust force posture in the region. You know, we have 2 carrier strike groups, you know, right there. Has that factored into Iran's decision-making process? I think it's certainly gotten into their headspace, but, you know, beyond that, we're maintaining our force posture there. We're there, of course, to defend our forces, and should we need to, we will come to the defense of Israel. Great. Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been reported from last Wednesday, some of the Arab military attaches met here in Pentagon with U.S. defense officials, specifically regarding the possible Iranian attack on Israel or something like that. But my question is regarding the U.S. possible measures or something under consideration with your Arab allies like UAE, Qatar, where you have military presence, and Saudi Arabia as well, who is very next to Yemen, as Yemenis are like calling mobilization calls each day. So you have done enough with your Saudi counterparts, Qatar and UAE, on the possible Yemenis, any type of retaliation to counter that.
So I think what you're asking is just on, if I'm understanding, and please correct me if I'm not, just asking about what is our response and how are we working with Arab partners in the region when it comes to the Houthis and how they're in Yemen. Okay, so the Houthis continue to disrupt shipping lanes within the Red Sea and the BAM. Right. That has caused environmental, economical problems. That is not just a problem for the region, this is a global problem. This disrupts shipping for all around the world. And so when you create, to use the example of the So Union, which is carrying 1 million barrels of oil, if those fires spread to those oil barrels and those oil barrels start leaking into the Red Sea, you are going to have an ecological catastrophe. So just taking a broader step back, this isn't just a United States, Arab partners problem. This is an international problem. Because just think about, and I'm not an environmentalist, but just think about the actual environmental, economical, financial degradation that's going to happen just from that one ship, and they're doing it almost daily. So you have to, so it's not just an Arab partner, or it's not just an Arab country problem or a United States problem, it's a global problem, which is why the secretary late last year established Operation Prosperity Guardian. And Aspides is another coalition, a European coalition that is also works with Operation Prosperity Guardian and other like-minded nations that believe in upholding the freedom of navigation. So this is something that we continue to work together with many of our allies around the world, and we're going to continue to do so.
One later on, Department of Justice and Department of State release about the possible interference from the Russian side and the other security threats. We have seen that from June, number of arrests being made by border security officials and some of the South and Central Asian nations people. They've been arrested because of their strong ties with the IS. So the question is regarding the election in US. Do you guys have some requests from Department of Homeland Security for the coordination specifically to counter these threats?
So when it comes to election security, that's something that you saw the Attorney General speak to. So I would refer you to DOJ and the State Department to really speak to how, they are monitoring election threats and handling election security. That's just not something that DOD, was part of that. And so I'd refer you to those two agencies to speak to that. Jared.
I just wanted to check if there's any update on the any clarification on this apparent strike by the Houthis on this Saudi-owned tanker, the Amjad. I know there was some conflicting information about whether or not it was hit or targeted.
I'm still tracking that the Amjad was hit, but I believe she was able to continue underway. But for more, I'd refer you to the actual company. Yes, over here and then in the back. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much. About Syria. According to the local news reports, on Monday, the PYD-YPG, or in your words, SDF, released 50 ISIS members from prison. So the United States always says that it is partnering YPG, SDF to counter ISIS. But in that case, the SDF-YPG released ISIS prisoners from prison. So that's a big contradiction. So what is the reaction by Department of Defense on this matter?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there was a confusion in some of the facts, but if you're referring to what happened a few days ago, there was, what I understand, a breakout from one of the prisons, and we worked with the SDF to actually get those ISIS militants back in custody. So Central Command put out a press release on that. I'd refer you to that. Yes, in the back, and then last question. Did you not have a question? Never? I thought you did. I'm sorry. If you did not, then never. Okay.
So thanks, Sabrina.
Yeah.
This 6 million pounds of humanitarian aid that Trinity transported to the port of Ashdod, were there originally planned to be transported through the JLAT project?
If I'm remembering correctly, this was some of the aid that when the JLAT's mission had concluded, this was some of the original or remaining aid that was still in Cyprus that was loaded onto the Cape Trinity and was waiting to be downloaded in Ashdod at the appropriate time that they were able to do it. So this was not aid that I was tracking that was supposed to go over JLATs. This was already being moved to go through the Ashdod corridor.
So since they are coming from Cyprus, I assume that they already went through the security check.
That's right.
Will they need another additional security check in Israel, or there will be transferred faster than the rest of the aid?
So we've been transferring aid through Ashdod for a bit of time, you might remember. So there's once it is checked at Cyprus, it can move through Ashdod pretty quickly. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Wow, that was kind of uneventful. Not a lot was said there. What is this? Included? Yeah, okay. What else is going on? So you got Walz speaking, Vance is speaking, Biden's going to be speaking at 4. Who's this? Who's this? Let's see what else is going on in here.
От бизнеса, поэтому если
Biden will be mumbling off a teleprompter at 4. Yeah, exactly. He's supposed to be talking about the economy. But you know how that's going to go. He's just going to come out and say, oh, the economy's great. Meanwhile, people can't afford shit. All right, I'm going to get off here. This was fun, for sure. Give me a follow, give me a subscribe if you want to come back and chat. And I'll be here. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. There it is. Woo, I got to follow. I'm starting to get some people over there on Twitch. I only have 31 followers over there, so starting to get some people. I think you need like 50 to get into their program. You need a lot of concurrent viewers as well over there. But alrighty then, I'm gonna go eat.